Hey, LinkedIn, and welcome to Business Unusual. This is a live show where we talk about coronavirus and the ways it is impacting the way we work and the way we live. I'm Susie Jackson. I'm a news editor at LinkedIn, coming to you live from my home in New York City. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We wanted to use our time on the show today to think through that in two ways. One is a check-in with this community. How are you doing? How are you faring through these unprecedented and incredibly stressful times? Let me know in the comments. Talk to me, talk to each other. We're going to get to as many comments and questions as you have today. And the second way we want to think through this is about the impacts to the business of providing mental health support and care. We are seeing therapy move into the video conference zone. It's traditionally a very intimate, personal, one-on-one kind of connection, now moving onto digital. We're seeing a rise in apps like Calm and Headspace that are promising meditation and calming benefits. But how well are those really working for you? I want to hear from you. Are you using apps like that? Are you trying new means of tending to your mental health? And also, are you a practitioner? Have you seen the way that you practice your work change rapidly in the last couple of months? Let me know. Talk to me. Talk to each other. To explore this issue more, I want to bring on a guest today. Leah Avellino is a psychotherapist and also the director of Head and Heart at The Well. It is a New York City-based wellness center. We're waiting for Leah to join us. There we go. Hello, Leah. Welcome to Business Unusual.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about this strange time with you.
Yes, we already have people in the comments saying hello. We have Lawrence from Arizona, Vincent from Virginia. We have Katie saying, thank God mental wellness is becoming prioritized. I think Katie's comment is a great place to start. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. I didn't know Mental Health Awareness Month existed last year. I'm certainly aware of it now. Do you find in your work, both in private practice and at the Wellness Center, that it's becoming more acceptable to talk about mental health, your own, and to talk about it kind of as a society?
Yes, for sure. So crises have a way of really accelerating things. And what we're noticing right now is that as our professional and personal lives really collide, that mental health is showing up a lot more in business conversations. It's showing up a lot more in conversations with the guy at the deli, that it's just becoming more central to the way we live our lives. And right now with stay at home, we're very much focused on protecting all of our physical health and doing our part. But what we know from the science is that pain really thrives in isolation. And as humans, we co-regulate. We feel better when we're spending time with other humans, and our nervous systems actually pick up on each other's cues. So the fact that we can't interact with other people is really having a negative impact on our mental health collectively.
I've already seen that in the stream. We have Diana says that she's working from home and it's not easy for a social butterfly. Alma is saying there's something that can never be replaced completely, and that is human presence. Virtual is nice, but it's not completely real human, is what she says. So, I mean, really early on in the show, we're hearing people say, I hear this, I feel this. It's hard to be alone and not connect with people. Are you seeing that same kind of thing in your practices?
Yes, and Alma, you're so right. It is not the same. And even though I feel very grateful that we have these digital tools to connect, they are not a replacement. There's a concept in psychology called feeling felt, and we are only able to feel felt in the presence of another. 80% of communication is nonverbal, and even if we look at the screen, most of my body is cut off. You really only see my face. I'm being Italian and throwing my hands up, which shows a little bit more of where I'm at. But yes, this is not the same. That as much as we can try to live better in this reality, we can't change the reality. And so it's very normal right now to not feel good and not feel okay.
Talk to me more about the Italian hand waving. In your practice, you are going from seeing people in your office, sitting across from you, you're observing their whole physical self. And now, as you say, they're cut off. You can only see the top part of them. What has that been like? How has that changed your work and the way that you work with people and help them find the best way to work with you?
Yeah, that's such a great question, Susie. So it's been a transition process for sure. In the beginning, I had a sense, just like many of you are saying in the chat box, of groundlessness. How do I do my work? This isn't business as usual. We're all trying to figure out a way to be in this sort of new normal. So at first, we were all very much commiserating and connecting around the uncertainty related to COVID-19. But then we found ways to bring the body into the screen. So with the clients I work with and in support circles, which are places where we provide digital group support that's open to the public, what we find is that when we're engaging in different activities like listening to music or together participating in movement or grounding exercises, that actually helps us feel more connected to one another because we're bringing in all of the signals that our body is offering into the screen. But what I will say is, especially in groups, I know many people are doing Zoom work meetings and Zoom group gatherings. When we were in person, we would have the ability to focus on side conversations, right? Like even if we were at a dinner with 10 people or in a conference room with more people, that we wouldn't focus on everyone else. And what's happening with screens right now is our systems actually cannot take in all the visual cues from multiple people at the same time. So if you're noticing that kind of Zoom fatigue, if you're noticing you're feeling more drained by 4 meetings in a day than you did when you were meeting in person, that is also completely normal. And that's being reported a lot as well.
We are seeing Nicole in the stream tell us that she loves the movement of hands, and it's suggested that we move our hands to demonstrate as we're speaking in these types of video format. So Nicole, I'm going to give some waves to you right now. As I pick up on something Leah was just talking about, is the sense of feeling drained. I want to know, the business has picked up for you. You're busier than ever. What is it like on the practitioner side to be in these Zoom calls back to back to back all day?
Yeah, so I'm going to be really raw and real with you. There are days where it's really painful, and there's something about the work that gives me a very big sense of purpose, and I have the pleasure of just getting real and raw with people in my work, that we don't have to deliver an outcome. We just have to be real with one another. So in some ways, it feels like a real gift right now to be able to be with somebody while they're falling apart and normalize what they're feeling and hold them in that experience. But there definitely is this feeling that I have sometimes of the waves of other people's emotions, and my own waves just feel really, really intense. And so I've kind of been meditating on this statement that the ocean always returns to calm, no matter how unruly the waves are. And so in times when I'm feeling that sense of overwhelm, that I go back to that, and that definitely soothes me. And it's a mental grounding technique to repeat a phrase to yourself that can feel regulating to your nervous system when it is overwhelmed, for sure. And I'm also really focusing on getting my own needs met and not going into sort of a martyr state that, as a person, mental health workers matter too, and frontline workers need care and support as well. Even though we're giving, we want to make sure that we're giving from a place of fullness, not depletion.
I think that's a great thing to remember. We do have other mental health providers joining us in the stream, and remembering to practice self-care if you're a provider or if you're a person receiving these services is really important. If you're just joining us now, this is Business Unusual. This is a live show where we talk about the ways coronavirus is impacting the way we work. We are talking today about mental health with Leah Avellino. She is the director of Head and Heart at the Well, a New York City-based wellness center, as well as a psychotherapist. And just coming off that, we're talking about self-care. We have a comment from Charisse in the stream saying that she's really glad we're talking about this a lot more now than ever. Self-care is important, and we can't stress that enough. And I both agree with Charisse and can find the concept of having to perform self-care overwhelming. It can feel like one more thing to do, and I've heard that sentiment a lot. Can you talk to me about that? Am I thinking about this the wrong way?
Yes, I think that's a really great point. And we live in a culture where self-care is always discussed as an additive, right? Do this bubble bath, try this face massage, add one more thing. But right now, I'm really defining self-care as meeting yourself exactly where you're at and figuring out what you need from this place. So what we know is in times of stress, our nervous systems typically do one or two things. Some of us are noticing, on one hand, we're way more frenetic. We are going all day. We are feeding our kids. We are texting constantly. We are scrolling. We are doing laundry, organizing our spice racks. And some of us might notice that we're feeling really shut down. We're lying on the couch. We feel sort of like mindless. We don't quite have a sense of how we're doing. We're binge watching Netflix. It can be hard to like motivate. And what we want to do is we want to figure out where your nervous system is, because really we will respond differently to self-care strategies based on where we're at. Someone who might be more turned up might see a list of self-care strategies and say, oh yeah, I want to pick that. I want to start journal writing. Whereas someone who might feel more shut down might be really overwhelmed by that. So it's really about building awareness of where you're at without judgment.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that people are going to process things differently and need different things. It's not a one size fits all. For some people, the to-do list items of a bubble bath or a certain way to meditate might be really restorative. And for others, it might just push you deeper into a poor feeling place. And considering that there are so many new ways popping up for people to try and receive mental health or self-care or some sort of calm, we see apps like Headspace and Calm actually in social feeds being advertised more and more heavily. There are podcast and meditation apps out there. What is your take on that? Is it help? Is it supplemental to more traditional in-person therapy? Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, so I'm really glad that these apps are available, right? Because therapy can be inaccessible either because of cost, or many of us are in our homes and we don't necessarily feel as safe opening up digitally and bearing our soul to someone that we don't know. So it's great that these apps are available. One thing that I like to support people in being mindful of, though, is that meditation is amazing. And what it does is it helps bring awareness to the present moment. And if you're finding in the present moment, when you tune into yourself, that you're feeling really anxious and really nervous, then meditation is going to tune you into what's happening inside of you. And so again, if that's not a tool that feels supportive of where you're at right now, and tuning into your internal world is not something that will calm you, then maybe this isn't the strategy for you. Maybe doing more active movements like physical grounding, standing with your 2 feet planted on the ground, feeling the earth underneath your feet holding you. Or one thing that I've been doing is I keep a tension ball, and you can use even a pair of socks by my desk, and I'll take breaks in between meetings and squeeze it, noticing the sensations, the temperature, the magnitude of those sensations. So that helps bring me back into the present moment rather than going towards something that's more about kind of being still with myself.
Yeah, we have Karen here in the stream saying that she feels more drained than ever. She feels like her work never switches off. Alfred saying that he thinks that virtual networking has actually helped him be more active and feel good. Before, he always felt uncomfortable networking in a room of people. Talk to me a little bit about what are some of the opportunities here in the digital space? I mean, if someone's looking for to start a therapy practice, could they conceivably start with anyone across the country or the world right now, given that physical proximity is being handled differently?
Yes. So I think two things. There's one way where we can just begin to nurture the connections we already have in our life in a better way. One thing we're noticing right now is people kind of don't know what to talk about outside of this, right? And so many of us are finding that we're venting or complaint sharing, and that actually drains us of our energy. And the research shows that when we vent, it has no long-term impact in terms of supporting our mental health. So first, we want to just build the connections with people in our lives by identifying people that we feel seen, soothed, secure, and safe with. And then we want to think about what we're sharing. So are we talking about COVID-19, or are we talking about what we want to do when this is over? Asking about things we used to do for play when we were children. So actually thinking about what are the quality of connections in my life first. And then second, yes, if you're seeking therapy, the most important piece of therapy and what makes it an effective intervention in supporting us in taking care of our mental health is the quality of a connection with a therapist. So right now, if you match with someone online that lives, 25 miles away from you, that's okay. It's really about getting the support you need right now in this really difficult time and not putting it on a pedestal.
So there's great tips to getting the support you need. Now, Andy in the stream wants to know, what about bad advice during this strange time? What coping strategies and mental health approaches would you not recommend?
That's a really good question. Well, the thing about advice in general, which is something that I talk a lot about with people in my field, is that we actually only take unsolicited advice less than 8% of the time. So we're finding right now that everybody and their mother wants to help us deal with this situation, right? And while those tips and strategies can be really effective, it is so normal to have a rejecting response to that in this moment. And I think what frustrates me about all the tips and strategies is what's missing is the question about where are you and what is your unique energy level, right? So there's a lot right now about like exercise, but if you're finding that it's hard to get out of bed, then having the goal of exercise might really actually be counterproductive. And the goal of simply waking up and putting your hands above your head and stretching and looking out the window, that we want to try just doing that and see how it feels. Our nervous systems need to experience a level of success to take bigger risks. So the smaller our risks are, the smaller our goals are, the more likelihood that we will actually continue to take more risks and live a life that feels better to us in this time.
That's great advice. And Lawrence is here in the stream. He's saying that he's learned that being okay with things not being okay is helpful. And I think for a lot of people, that can even feel like a risk. There's a lot of pressure in our culture to be always on, always performing. But tell me, being busy, is that just another coping strategy?
Yeah, exactly. So our culture really glorifies being busy, right? And kind of projecting okayness and showing up. And it's the same type of protective strategy if we're busy all the time as when somebody who's shut down and can't get off the couch. It's just that busy people tend to be more valued in our society. It's still protecting us from feeling more of the difficult emotions, just like not feeling anything at all and not being able to move.
And we're seeing some more in the stream about people agreeing that not one set of advice is going to fit everyone. Charles is saying that structure in his daily routine has helped him a lot. He's being strict about it and finding it can help divide and break up the day, break up bad periods, difficult moods, just by having activity reminders that he's set to do the next thing. A lot of other people, though, are saying that they have already ripped up the calendar. That's not working for them. A lot of working parents are saying that, too, that the pressure to maintain something rigid in the name of busyness or productivity is not working for them at all.
Right. And so what we're noticing is people are in really different places. And this is a time to really tune into where you're at and figure out what you need from that place. Similarly, I'm a parent and I have a practice, and my kid has had so many nights of mac and cheese and pizza and more TV than she's ever had. And I'm sort of going with that. Like, this is hard on all of us. And the more we sort of fight against that rather than accept this is where I'm at and therefore what do I need, the better we can live in this reality.
And we have Timothy saying that his reality is that he finds that self-care is a real lifestyle change, that it's empowering from a mental health point of view. And he suggests connecting with nature by getting some things done in the yard or garden. Maybe you don't have a yard or garden, but you can take a walk outside. I find that that's something that can be really nice and pretty easy too.
It's true. And actually what the research shows is even looking at images of nature, or Susie, you brought up the Calm app where they have different nature sounds, the sound of trickling stream, a thunderstorm, that simply by taking that time to observe and tap into our imagination, when we can't go out, we can go in, can actually have improved benefits. One thing that we practice in support circles is something called dream time, where many of us commit to setting an alarm on our phone for 5 to 10 minutes every single day and just lying down and letting our mind wander. And so even though last week was a really stressful week in my life, in reality, I was a park ranger in the redwoods in my dream time. And that actually has improved benefits for our well-being at this time.
I think you would be a great park ranger, Leah. I think the forest fires incidents would just drop completely. You mentioned that you, in the support circles that you run. I want to talk for just a second about that business. That's a big business change for you. You've run these in-person circles in New York City that. Talk to me about how that's changed in the last couple of months as everything has gone digital.
Yes. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the term, a support circle is a space, a judgment-free zone where people come together to work through challenges in life that are meaningful to them. And the reason why I started this business was I really wanted to take kind of the science and ethos of therapy and take it out of a medical environment, take it out of a dimly lit back office, and make it more accessible to the public in a really non-stigmatized way. And yes, like Susie said, with these circles, we would meet in person, either in a meditation dome or a flower shop. And now we're meeting digitally. And in some ways, people are really opening up and being super raw, because what some of the research shows is the screen actually helps us be more of our authentic self, because we're less afraid of judgment than when we're in person with people. So we're finding people are showing up, people are opening their hearts, and they're also experiencing, oh, wait, this is the type of connection that feels good. Connection and socializing are two very different things. So when we talk about real things that matter to us, we feel a lot better. And businesses are contacting us to implement support circles for their staff as a way of saying, hey, we understand that you have a lot on your plate. We understand we have tall asks for you, but we also want to provide you with support and helping you connect to your colleagues.
And Diane's joining us in the stream, referencing another longstanding way to support one another, book clubs. She finds that those to be very helpful ways to connect with people, to kind of share something common. I want to talk for a minute about people who might not have as much access to this kind of thing, to a book club, to a support circle, to therapy, to pay some monthly fee for an app. In the stream, we have Barbara. No, excuse me. I'm sorry. I've lost her name, but someone is, Tammy. Thank you, Tammy, for your patience. She says she works at a public school in upstate New York, and her concern is for the mental health and wellness of children who are home now 24/7, some who lack internet access, are isolated from friends. For some of these children, school is their safe haven. Let's talk about kids. Let's talk about other people who maybe the disruption in their lives isn't just an inconvenience. It's actually something really, really startlingly difficult to deal with.
Yes. And that's such an important question, Tammy. And I know we only have like 3 minutes left, so I'll make this brief, but you are so right. Children are in a really difficult position right now, and it really depends on their age too. Many kids, school was the safest place for them to be, and it provided a respite from home life. For other kids, socialization was so nurturing and allowed kids to feel a sense of play and freedom. So there's been so many incredible losses there. And I'm not familiar as much in this area with the national landscape, but I know several organizations in New York are working to figure out how do we provide remote support when we can't actually be in each other's presence. And I think, the effort to keep kids connected online, while great, is not going to fill the hole of what they lost.
Yes. And Leah, I know you have to run, but answer one more quick question for me before you go. If someone is feeling concerned about someone, what should they do?
That's a great question. So first, it can be really helpful if you have the capacity in the space to check in with another person. Right now, the question, are you okay, is very, very radical. And it allows people to open up and share with you and really feel connected to you. And then each state has different crisis hotlines, and we can share that number in the chat for New York State. But there are places that you can share numbers that you can share people with so that they have access to what they need.
That's great. Leah, thank you so much. Leah has to run to lead one of her support circles right now, so we're going to let her go. But thank you very much for being with us today.
Susie, and it was great to meet all of you. Speak soon. Bye.
Thank you for joining us too. The comments in the stream are really wonderful. There were so many people giving tips, giving support, getting support from others. We love to see that. I'll read just a few of them. We saw Barbara saying that as a psychologist, she found that using teletherapy, she was surprised to find it was actually a new kind of intimacy, and she's now up close and personal, noticing all kinds of nuances in their faces. So something to consider in your next uses is to really get that face in there. We have Heather reminding us to stay smiling behind the mask. I think that might be a nice one to end on, Heather. Thank you for that. Thank you for all of us for joining us today. And we will be back tomorrow. Caroline Fairchild will be talking to the CEO of Vox, Aaron Levy. Thank you so much.